China, India, Japan. All of them have had great success stories, but the emerging Asian tiger Vietnam is roaring with insane levels of prosperity. Once known for its turbulent history, Vietnam has emerged in recent years as a stealthy contender in the global economic arena. It is one of the few countries on Earth that still claims to be communist despite possessing one of the world's fastest growing economies. Its story starts when the people of Vietnam established their kingdoms in the northern delta. The southern delta is significantly more powerful. It encompasses nearly the whole southern point of Vietnam, including Ho Chi Minh City, the country's most populous city. Although the Mekong doesn't originate in Vietnam, it flows through several other nations, including Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and into China, stretching all the way to Tibet. The Mekong River Basin comprises over half of Indochina, giving Vietnam significant control over regional trade. Today, Vietnam, under the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, is rapidly rising. Following the French withdrawal from Indochina, the country was divided in half. Of course, both sides went to battle. China and the USSR backed the communist North, while the capitalist South received assistance from the United States and certain regional allies. The war was brutal, culminating in the North's victory and the communist control of Vietnam in 1976. However, in 1986, following economic stagnation, the Republic imposed Doi Moi reforms, and that is when the fate of the nation changed forever. It liberalized Vietnam's markets, encouraging private ownership of farms and industries, as well as international investment. And since then, its economy has been transforming dramatically since Doi Moi's reforms in the 2000s, with GDP per capita increasing by around tenfold. Now you might be wondering, why Vietnam? How can a country that was formerly war-torn is now aligned with multiple geographic challenges and arguably only converted from a socialist-based economy to a market-based economy in a matter of decades become a candidate for economic titles? Vietnam is an agricultural powerhouse. The tropical climate allows plants to grow. Rice, sugarcane, cassava, cashews, maize, bananas, and coffee are among its top exports. It exports millions of tons of both. The fishing sector in Vietnam is critical to the country's agricultural system. Vietnam has always been a seafood powerhouse due to its abundance of rivers, lakes, and vast coastline. Millions of tons of shrimp and catfish are harvested and exported. Another large business is mining, notably petroleum extraction. That is not simply to imply that mining minerals such as ammonium, bauxite, gold, ruby, and iron is not common in the Vietnamese mountains. Vietnam has offshore oil deposits that are now capable of producing approximately 400,000 barrels per day. Renewable energy is simply not on the menu for Vietnam. According to United Nations trade data, Vietnam's greatest exports by category are electronics, which account for 39% of overall exports, followed by machinery, apparel, and footwear. These merchandise exports can be linked to foreign investments. How? Because many of these exports are linked to firms such as Samsung. Yes, Samsung, a South Korean conglomerate and electronics brand, has a significant presence in Vietnam. And it is because of Samsung's presence that Vietnam has emerged as an electronics manufacturing powerhouse. According to a report published by VN Express, the President and Deputy Prime Minister of Vietnam discussed Samsung's significant presence in Vietnam. As of the end of 2022, Vietnam's total exports from Samsung products amounted to a whopping $65 billion. In case you forgot, Vietnam's total exports were $371 billion. For a single firm to account for this much of Vietnam's total exports would make Samsung an extremely important portion of the Vietnamese economy. And you may be asking how this occurred. Generally, Vietnam produces more than half of all Samsung cell phones. As most people know, Samsung is the world's second largest smartphone brand, trailing only Apple. Its topography provides it with one of the greatest defenses on the planet, as well as control over all trade along the Mekong. However, due to its proximity to an increasingly assertive China, Vietnam has been forced to open up to Western nations for economic and military assistance in the face of a possible Chinese attack. So Vietnam is unquestionably a future economic powerhouse. However, if we only look at the data for low-cost smartphone devices, we can see that Vietnam is not only a predator who outperforms Apple in this area, but they have also become a key element of the production process for developing countries. According to statistics, millions of smartphone items are released each year. Samsung's foreign investment in Vietnam exceeds $18 billion, with intentions to increase $20 billion. Manufacturing is undoubtedly Vietnam's largest industry today, accounting for more than 40% of GDP. Every year it becomes more usual to find made in Vietnam products no matter where you are. Check your clothing right now. I'm sure a lot of you have seen made in Vietnam stamps. Because of its proximity to China, also known as the world's factory, it has the potential to absorb or provide a considerable number of jobs from China. Electronics companies are also shifting from South Korea to Vietnam. Samsung makes 40% of its phones in the country. Other manufacturing industries include vehicles, textiles, food processing, chemicals, and footwear. If anything is lifting Vietnam out of poverty, it is its industrial sector. By the 2010s, corporations such as Samsung and Intel have invested billions of dollars in Vietnam's technology manufacturing sector. Samsung alone invested more than $17 billion in Vietnam, employing tens of thousands of workers. Between 1993 and 2014, Vietnam lifted almost 40 million people out of poverty. During this time, the poverty rate fell from about 60% to 14%. However, much more work remains to be done, which we will discuss later. On top of that, with the increasing tensions between major powers and China's strict pandemic measures, along with rising labor costs, it's no surprise that many large companies are shifting their focus to Vietnam. Apple's biggest suppliers, like Foxconn and Pegatron, responsible for making Apple Watches, MacBooks, and more, are constructing large factories in Vietnam, poised to become the largest employers in the country. Other big names such as Dell, HP, Google, and Microsoft are also relocating parts of their production from China to Vietnam. These changes have the potential to bring even more growth and improve the lives of millions of Vietnamese people. That, in turn, could boost the popularity of the Communist Party, which has governed Vietnam as a single-party state since the war ended in 1975. Aside from foreign investments and exports, the economy has shifted from traditional to modern-based economies. The government has implemented a variety of economic changes. For example, they privatized the largest state-owned enterprises. In other words, they were making reforms to make the system more market-oriented. This boosted investment both domestically and abroad. By promoting a more market-oriented structure, Vietnam was able to strengthen competition within its own borders, resulting in higher productivity and growth. Another incredible reason for its rise is its service industry. Yes, there is banking and finance, but the primary service is tourism. In 2019, Vietnam received 18 million tourists, the highest number in its history. They come to see the megacities of Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, as well as the many jungle-covered mountains and bays. It's no surprise that Vietnam benefited after opening up to the global economy through Doi Moi, or foreign investment. When Vietnam opened up its vast population to the rest of the globe, manufacturing, tourism, and the Vietnamese economy all boomed. Finally, improvements in infrastructure and export promotion aided Vietnam's economy, as did a greater push and emphasis from the government on what is important. They realized that the world didn't require a lot of agriculture and commodity-based products, but rather electronics, machinery, and so on. Even official institutions such as the Korean Economic Institute of America, which published an article in 2021 citing how important Vietnam has become for South Korea, has stated that the main reason for numerous South Korean companies to invest in Vietnam is its political stability. The country has also managed to secure its position in key East Asian trade accords, allowing it to trade freely with major economies such as China, Japan, South Korea, and Australia. Vietnam has lucrative economic deals with many countries than just the United States. In 2020, it became the world's only developing economy to sign a free trade agreement with the EU, granting it open access to one of the world's largest blocs. Honestly, Vietnam has a promising future ahead of it. Its economy is among the fastest growing in the world. Its stable yet expanding population means that as more people urbanize, economic growth will accelerate, particularly in the manufacturing sector. The former war-torn country has now transitioned into a modern, vibrant economy. The streets of Da Nang, Hanoi, and Ho Chi Minh City are now crowded with high-rise buildings, bustling cafes, and vibrant markets. With all of this in mind, it's clear why Vietnam is swiftly emerging as a global alternative to China.